Okay, just getting things ready. Bear with me for a few moments. Okay, I'm just going to put a sign up on the screen for a moment. I'm just going to go and grab a coffee before we get started, so bear with me. Starting in a few minutes. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I have coffee. So Mark is saying this is still the best aircraft in the sim. Yep, it is. It's fantastic. Unfortunately, I haven't flown it for ages, so I'm going to make mistakes today. I'm going to just put that out there straight away. But we'll see. I'll do my best. Okay, so I'm going to refer to my own notes on how to start this thing. So go and jump inside. So Control and 7 should take us overhead, and then we go and turn the batteries on, which are here. Told you I was rusty. Then go further overhead, turn the nav light to high int, which is there. No smoking to auto, so that's there, so the middle position. Cabin emergency to armed, cabin emergency lights I should say. So where are we? Cabin emergency lights to armed. On the far left, yaw damper masters 1 and 2 to on, which are here. AP master to on, and the avionics master A and B to on. Then anti-skid and lift spoilers, anti-skid to on, and the yellow and green to on. So anti-skid to on and yellow and green to on, which is done. Overhead, and the electric column, bus tie AC and DC to auto, and standby inverters and standby generators to armed. So bus tie AC and DC to auto, inverters and generators to armed. APU generator to on, which is, I'm just checking this on my list, is down here. So that's 2 clicks on the APU gen. In the fuel section, first column, well, fuel pumps I should say, the left inner to on. So that provides the fuel for the APU actually. So APU is in the third column, the master switch goes to start. So, sorry, start. See, I told you I was rusty, I just tried to start the engines. APU goes to start and we wait for the pressures to come up. So eventually the lights will come on saying the APU is available, and I didn't mean pressures, sorry, I meant RPM. I'm trying to read one thing, refer to another, looking twice across the desk in different directions. I'm not doing great at it at the moment. Here we go. So APU power is available. Okay, so next thing, emergency lights to armed, which are here. On the aft centre console now, so Control and 4 to get there. We turn the yaw damper on, so we just press this button once. And then on the right and left side panels of the aircraft, we are going to go and arm the oxygen system. Notice this is not turning it on, this is arming it. And over 7, Control 7, sorry, for overhead, we are going to do centre tank transfer to auto. We're going to turn the ice protection system on. And then on the co-pilot side, we are going to click on the flip chart, which will give us the numbers there on the rotate speeds. We're going to go and click to turn the flight directors on, and turn on nav 1, can actually turn on nav 2 as well while we're at it. I always forget to do this. And then at the front pedestal we can turn the comm radios to on. Done. And at this point we would set up the FMC. I have removed it. We don't want any part of an FMC today, but we will go and have a look at the flight plan. While I'm doing this, I'll just check out the live stream comments. So, Heat My Shorts is saying, do you fly in real life too? You seem very knowledgeable. No, I have just learned things. Startup sequence are so intricate. It is for this aeroplane, yeah. So all I've done really, I've reduced it enormously. If you look in here, you will find there are many steps within each of these to do things. I have removed all of the things that we are presuming are in the right places in the startup configuration of the simulator, so I'm only doing the essential bits and pieces throughout the aircraft. We're going to turn that on, by the way. It doesn't actually do anything, but we'll switch it on. It's a looking at kind of piece of hardware that doesn't actually function. Anyway, what are we going to do? Where did we get to? So, oh, Mick Farrett is saying, is this worth the money or wait for the Avro? I don't know, is the answer to that. Nobody's seen the Avro yet. So this is good in its own right. It's one of the best planes in the game. Okay, so we would be setting up a flight plan at this point on an FMC if we had one, but we don't have one. We're going to be taking off from, we're at Southend on the ground, so if we zoom in here on the little nav map, let's turn the sector colours off for a moment to show you this. So we're on the ground here. You can see on the corner of the apron. If we zoom out, you can see that. And we are going to be probably taxiing out to runway, is it 22 or 23? 23. And taking off and then heading left, or port, down to the south coast. The reason for that is the specific route we're going to follow is to avoid the airspaces. So if we turn on the airspaces in little nav map, we are going to avoid going into the airspace of any of the airfields. So we're going to use the VOR stations to do that. So it should be good fun. Okay, so it's a bit of a radio navigation exercise really. So to begin with though, we are just going to concentrate on getting out of Southend and heading down through the Detling and over to the Lid VOR stations. Okay, so let's go and get back inside the airplane. We need to set up the master control panel. So we're going to go and set our initial climb altitude, which will be... There isn't a standard instrument departure out of Southampton, but we do actually... Oh, I've gone and closed Navigraph. Let's have a look in here. It should be in here actually. If we go and look in charts, if we look on standard instrument departures for... What's the code again? Echo Golf Mike Charlie. So I have got a Navigraph subscription, which is why I'm able to do this. So we can see here, this is all that really exists in terms of departing from Southend. So you'll notice climb straight ahead 1,500 feet before turning. So there really aren't any rules in terms of, you know, departing. So we're going to go, what are we doing? We'll go out to, say, if we fly most of the route, because we could climb straight out to our destination altitude. I think below 20,000 feet you can do what you want, basically. So we'll say go to 12,000 feet, which will allow us to go faster than 250 knots on the way round. We'll arm that immediately, and we'll concentrate on the rest of it when we get that far. Okay, so we've done... Oh, we haven't done the nav radios. So on departure, we will be heading for Detling 117.30. So we're going to go and tune that into nav 1. So 117. Notice on the BAE 146, you can key straight into, or tune straight in, the primary frequency, or the active frequency I should say. But obviously you can set the secondary frequency or standby frequency. Obviously then you can switch between them with this button here. They're both the same at the moment, so it doesn't matter. We are going to go and turn the distance measuring equipment on now. That's interesting. So it took a while to reboot that. But then once we've got DME, we get the numbers turning up, and we'll also get them down here once we get a signal from the station. So we're not going to worry too much about that. Oh, we need to just check. Yeah, this switch is on nav, not on RNAV. If you were flying with GPS, you'd be using RNAV. GPS was retrofitted into this aircraft. It would be there if I hadn't removed it, and I've specifically removed it to make this kind of period accurate to the time this aircraft flew. Okay, so Control 7, we're going to get ready to start the engines. So on the lower panel we're going to set fasten seatbelts to on. I'm just trying to remember where that is. Here it is. Overhead panel control and 8, we set the beacon light to on. So beacon light usually comes on just before you start the engines, so we would do a pushback now if we need to. I'm going to, so we'll see what happens. If I just press Shift P, we're not going to push back very far. It's just to give ourselves turning room. So it come off the... Well, it won't come off the parking brake just yet. I'll wait until they're connected. Let's have another look at the live stream chat. Yeah, so Mark has mentioned that you can't use the ILS with it switched to RNAV. Yeah, you have to. It's a bit. It's interesting, isn't it? Because the things like the 737. Oh, we've got parking brake on by the look of it. Was there a specific switch for that? Did I not have it configured? I just released it, but we weren't pushing back very quickly, were we? Wondering if I've messed something up there. What is going on here? Why is this not releasing the parking brake? Because I have released it. Oh, I know why. The chocks. See, this is rustiness of not having seen this aeroplane for a while. We are forcing this aeroplane backwards. There we go. With the chocks on. We were skidding them across the ground. That's better. Okay, so now we are away from the ground cruise, we can go and start the engines. So I have to remember how to do this now. So first of all we go and turn all of the fuel pumps on. So start master goes to on. Turn this to there and that to there, and then we sit and wait. We're waiting. I've done them in the wrong order actually. We've gone for number 1 first. We'll go for number 4 after that. So we wait for this to get to 20 on the N. On the N1, and then we introduce fuel, which we've just done, and turbine gas temperature comes up. We'll go and turn on the power on the thrust modulation system as well while we're here. So this switch will come back off on its own. There it goes. So we can go for an engine. We'll go for engine number 4 now. which we should have done to begin with, really. So number 4, we'll see the N2 number, that's the gas turbine percentage coming up when it gets to 20. So it's electrically powered on the BAE 146, so the engines are spun up electrically. When they get to 20% speed, you can hit the start lever on the throttle. That will introduce fuel and ignite the engine, and then the gas temperature obviously comes up. It's the N1 number, sorry, not N2. There we go. So you can see the numbers climbing there. Very good. So wait for that to go. It's already gone. Start engine number 3. Engine number 3 is coming up. Wait for it to get to 20. Hit the starter lever. And finally, waiting for the lights to go out. Engine number 2. Waiting for 20 on the N1. There we go. Hit the starter. And we're nearly there. So when the lights go out up here, we will select the start selector 0 and the master off. There we go. So, oops. There we go. Okay, so if we press Control 7 again to get the overhead view, and we're looking for the electrical column Gen 1 and 4 to on. So there we go. So the generators are now operating, and the packs on the far right, packs 1 and 2 to on. So that's the air conditioning system for the cabin. Engine air, all of them should go to on. And overhead, the brake fans to auto. So they're up here. Hydraulics, engine pumps 1 and 2 to on. So that's powering up the hydraulic systems, which is, you know, the actuators for the control surfaces and so on. Ice protection, all heaters to on. So here's the ice protection. So we want, interesting. I think we can leave the auxiliary one where it is, but we'll put it on. And we are ready to taxi at this point, so we can check lights and flaps and things like that. So let's go and have a look around. I'm just reading the live stream chat before we go any further. Anyone considering buying this? There are several states you can load via the EFB if you're in a rush to get going. Yes, there are. I'll just quickly show you that. I was just doing this for general interest for people if they wanted to see it. If you go into the aircraft section, you can jump straight to ready for takeoff, and the plane will robotically get itself ready. Oops. So we are going to taxi out. So let's get the flaps to take off position. So if we go and look from outside, it's quite cool watching them do it. Because this is a short airfield aircraft, as strange as that may seem. And if you look at the engineering of the undercarriage, it's absolutely built like a tank. Right. Off the parking brakes, ease the throttles forwards, steer left, and we'll go out to the runway. Should put the charts back on. So on our way out, we are going to go and set our heading bug for the direction of the runway. So if you remember, if we go and have a little look at Southend, we want 234 degrees. So heading knob is over here, but the actual bug is down here, which is really helpful. Not. To 20 degrees, 230, it's about there maybe. Let's just double check if we zoom in and look at this. Yeah, we got it about right. I don't know if we can pre-select. Yes, we can pre-select heading mode on the autopilot. Runway ahead is painted on the taxiway. This is the Pilot Plus scenery for Southend, by the way. I just bought it yesterday, so this is the first time I've really operated from it properly. Obviously, if you had ATC involved, you would be stopping at the holding points and calling in for permission. We're not doing that. Someone said they can't see me on Little Nav app. I'm just going to stop the airplane for a moment. I'm going to go and run transmitter. And we'll put in here a call sign of just my name and connect and minimize it. What they're talking about in Little Nav Map is now you can now see a little red aeroplane appearing. If you want to know all about that program I just ran, Transmitter, go and visit the virtualflight.online website and you can read all about it. I wrote it back when Flight Sim first came out, basically because I was flying online with a group of friends. Should we get rid of the tablet now? There we go. There's a click spot for that, by the way. If you click that little bit of paper on the dashboard there, it gets rid of the tablet out of your way. You can also click on these, I believe, somehow, yep, to get them out of the cockpit. Okay, let's go for it. So I'm going to go full throttle, see what happens. Quite windy, there's a bit of a crosswind, I'm pushing against it with the rudder. So gear up. We are going upstairs at quite a rate of knots. I'm just trimming the elevators for that. So if we scoot sideways, can we see the pier? Yeah, there's the pier at Southend. Anyway, let's concentrate. So, autopilot on. Of course we need to use a key to do that. This is an indicator, not a button. The autopilot button is on the yoke on the 146, so you just need to be aware of that. So we're going to hit vertical speed, which will maintain this vertical speed. We're also going to go over to the thrust modulation system and say we would like maximum continuous thrust, please. Normally you would have used takeoff mode for takeoff. I didn't use that. So the thrust modulation system is not an auto throttle, so you have to think about in terms of that. So I'm just raising the flaps as we go. So you will see the speed increase. We've got the altitude armed, so we're climbing out for 12,000 feet. So if we go and look at the map, you'll see we're coming up to the point at which we want to make our turn for our first VOR, 117.30. I'm just going to turn the sound down a bit. It's making a hell of a noise, isn't it? So 11730, you can see, actually we've not got that working. Oh, it's 30, I've got 35 tuned in, that'll be why. It's starting to come alive. We should have set the course as well of 175 degrees, so I'm going to do that on the heading now. We've overshot slightly. I completely forgot to do that when we were setting up the MCP. But it doesn't matter too much. There we go. Makes a bit more sense now, doesn't it? So we'll just backtrack across the path a little bit to get the direction of travel. We're coming up to 250 knots, so we can come back on the throttles. Put them onto sync mode. Okay, so we've got 9 miles to travel until we get to the VOR. We're just coming back onto the line into the VOR. We can actually go for VOR lock, or yeah, there it is, VOR lock, VL mode. So now the aircraft will track the VOR for us and fly us straight into it. So it's navigating now. You can see the flight director doing the work to move the aeroplane around in the air. I'm not doing that anymore. You can see the yoke is moving, my hands are free. 7 miles to go. So you can see we are now travelling towards Detling. When we get to Detling, we need to be travelling 149 degrees over to Lid. The Lid VOR is at 11405. So what we'll do is put that in on the secondary frequency. So with 5 miles to go. We could actually alternate them, couldn't we? Should we do it on this one? So 114.05, and the course we want on nav2 was 149 degrees. So we'll do it. This will be good actually to show you the split command. So 149. We've got 4 miles to go, or 3.5. So what we're going to do at the moment in split mode, each nav is reflected each side of the cockpit independently. We're going to switch to nav 2 on the split, which will make nav 2 reflect here. Okay? So we are just coming up to 12,000 feet, so we're leveled out. I'm just going to increase the throttles gently. Did I put the strobes on earlier? No. That's on me. I should have done that. I also didn't use the landing lights on takeoff, which I should have done. Anyway. So we're over the top, so we go to nav 2 now, and you'll notice this is still on VOR lock, but it's having a job doing it. So what it should have done is turned left. So what we'll do is go to heading mode and give it a hand. This is the whole problem with let's put it back on split. This is the whole problem with navigating by radio. This needs to be 149 degrees, whoops. The autopilot will not intercept on VOR lock if you're flying away from the beam, which is what we just saw. Because it was flying away from it, it wasn't about to make the turn back towards it for us. So you can see we've got switch this over. Okay, it's looking better now. So we'll just use heading mode because of that issue. On a longer trip it makes sense to use VOR lock, or if you're using ILS you would use VOR lock and glide slope lock together. But with making all these turns it makes more sense for us just to use heading mode and use this as a helping hand to know if we're on track or not. So we've got 11 miles to go. Let me pull up the live stream chat. So Leonard's saying, finally someone who likes radio navigation. Yes. It's great fun, it gives you something to do. GPS is a bit boring because you just say, oh, okay, follow the track, off you go. This at least gives us something to think about along the way. Oh, we're overspeeding. See, we're at 12,000 feet, so we can exceed 250 knots now. We just dipped into a faster speed than we should have been going. So 7.5 miles to the VOR station. The next one we're going to tune in is the Seaford VOR at 117.00. So we will tune that in on the standby frequency. So we've got it ready and we'll swap it when we're a couple of miles out, and we'll need to change our course to 243 degrees. I mean, we could do it now. So if we go and change the course now, we're in heading mode, so we'll just continue on this course that we're on. So the course needs to be 243. So we'll just spin it round. Notice the arrow is moving here. We'll get the aeroplane turning as well. Whoops. I'm hoping we're going to be slightly off, because then you can see making corrections along the way. I'm wondering why this is not... Oh, it's working now. For some reason that last radio beacon wasn't working. 243, wasn't it, we said? This one's working, because like you can see the course deviation indicator is moving, so we turned a bit late where I was busy talking and messing around. So all we need to do for that is move the heading bug beyond the direction of travel and it will come back onto track. So we've got 31 miles to go until we get down to the Seaford VOR. See that we're off to the left, which is indicated here by being off to the left of the line. As long as we cross back across, it will be fine. So we just gently come back on track. Obviously if we want to expedite that, we just move the heading bug a bit further to pull us onto track more quickly. But we've got 28 miles to go. We're doing just over 250 knots, which is fine. So as I said at the start, if you weren't here at the start, what we're doing today is flying around London but avoiding the airspaces of the airports. So we're playing with VOR navigation along the way to make that possible. Okay. Just counting down the miles now, basically. Should we have a look outside? We haven't even looked outside since we took off. It's a gorgeous aeroplane, isn't it? And it makes great noises as well. You get lots of liveries with it. Lots of other liveries are now available in the on the internet. So it's really, really well modelled. Okay, 23 miles to go to the VOR. I guess just to make this a bit more fun, what we could do is turn our aeroplane off so we can't see where we are. So we're on our way to Seaford 117.0. Yeah, we know we're along here somewhere because we just saw where we were. This makes it a bit more fun, so we have to read the map. And we have to make sense of things. Let's turn those sectors off. We're not really interested in them. All we're interested in is the map. So at the moment we are 19 miles away from Seaford. We're off to the right. So we've crossed over that line now. So we've gone too far. So I'm just turning us back across the line again. Obviously, while we are en route, as long as we are on an intercept course with the track, we can ask the aeroplane to do a VOR lock for us, and it will take over and it will intercept. It won't do that if your angle of departure from the VOR is too much. So you saw that happen earlier when we left Detling and we're about to turn off towards Lydd. We were flying at too far of an angle away from the VOR radial, so it wouldn't let us do it. It wouldn't. The VOR lock wouldn't start guiding the flight director. But this will, look, it's gently turning. You can see the flight director moving around. So once that line gets to the middle, the VOR lock will happen and it will straighten up onto the track automatically. So we're 13 miles away from Seaford 117.00, so we can see that here. So if we measure backwards along here, we can figure out where we are. So 13 miles, we are about there at the moment. We notice from the arrow the direction across here it is, and we've got the white arrow showing up on the HSI here as well, meaning this is the direction to the VOR. We are crabbing across the crosswind. If we look in little nav map, we got a headwind 21 knots, but it's more or less, look, it's turning us now to get us. It's aligned the course deviation indicator and it's now turning towards the VOR, and it's pretty much nailed it. Better than we did by hand. Sim's just frozen, by the way. I'm just waiting for it to release. There we go. It's a glitch in the system, don't worry about it. It seems to be unique to my computer. It sometimes does it. Okay, 9 miles to go. So Leonard's saying, BAE is interesting how you need to apply speed brakes at touchdown. Well, it depends how long the runway is and how steep the descent is. Because with full flaps on this thing, the flaps are like barn doors. So we've got 6 miles to go. So we're getting closer to Seaford. We're going to change our course to 279 degrees and change the VOR to 11475. We can do that now. So 279 degrees on the course, so we'll go back to heading mode before we do that. So let's move the heading mode back to the direction we're actually going. So 279. We can do that now on here. We're going to swap the frequencies now. And 11475 is the next, the Goodwood VOR. So we want to actually change the active. We hadn't pre-done it, had we? So this should come alive. There it goes. We're not far off, look. 35 miles to run to Goodwood now. If we wanted to, we could select the one we're flying back away from. 117 what was it? 11700. So we could track leaving Seaford on VOR2 or Nav Radio 2. 11700. So there you go, it's moved around, look. If we were to spin this, it would tell us the exact direction to it. And it's moving as we speak because we're not going straight over the top of it. But if we put it the opposite direction from us, it will get closer and closer over time. So you can see the DME. You can see it here as both. On this instrument here, you get both needles and you get both DMEs. So we're seeing direction to nav 1, direction to distance to the nav 1 beacon, distance to the nav 2 beacon. So this one's counting down and this one's counting up as we get further away. So we're off to the right slightly of the VOR, so let's just go and turn our heading bug slightly to do an intercept. So we're turning the aircraft across the track, so we pull in closer to the line, and as long as we are in that situation, we should be able to go to VOR lock and the plane will take over and intercept for us, and it's doing that. So Heat My Shorts is asking what server do I fly on. I'm using Southeast Asia today. The only reason I tend to use Southeast Asia is historically it's always been a bit quieter, but I don't think it's such an issue anymore. So we've got 24 miles to run to the Goodwood VOR. So we can figure out where we are. If we measure alongside here, we're about here at the moment. So we could put a marker in if we wanted to, but we won't bother. We know we're just alongside Brighton. So if we were to look outside, there's Brighton down there. There's Brighton Pier. We can see on the map. There's the port down there, Shoreham. We're about to come past. If we have a look outside again, you'll see there's Shoreham airfield. Yeah, you can see it down there. So 19 miles, 18 miles to run, 18 and a half. So after leaving Goodwood behind, we will be looking to fly a particular radial away. And the reason we're doing this is we need to avoid both sides, and we would be very close to going into the airspace of Farnborough if we didn't. So we're going to fly away on a given radial for 20 miles basically, and then fly the radial into the next one. So it'll make it a little bit more interesting on the next leg. So once we leave Goodwood, we want to have 11435 tuned in advance. So we'll go and tune in 11435 for the next VOR. So we can just flick over to it when we get there and change our course. So leaving Goodwood, we need to be doing 323 degrees. We've still got 14 miles nearly to go though, so we're not going to worry. So Hunagal is saying, hi Jonathan, you flying to Goodwood? Have you been to the Festival of Speed? No, never been. I'm not actually going to, we're not flying into Goodwood, we're going to fly over. We're just doing a circuit of London, but we're doing it in such a way that we don't cross into any of the airfield sectors. So we're following radio navigation using the BAE 146 all the way around London, which is fun. So we're 10 miles from Goodwood now. Just watching the numbers count down. So again, once we get to Goodwood, we will change our course to 323 degrees. So we will instead of going to, so the white arrow here means we are going to the VOR, which is obviously it's counting down, so you can see that happening. That will flick over, and we will change to 323 degrees on the course, but we'll go to heading mode, because VOR lock will go wrong as soon as we lose signal over the top. So we're going to put the heading in line with the direction we're actually going at the moment. Go to heading mode in anticipation. Watch this countdown, and then with a mile to go we'll turn to 323. I mean, we could do it now. So we'll go to 323, and then when we're 1 mile from the VOR, we'll change the heading and we'll sweep on to the next track, flying away from the VOR on the 323 degree radial. So we're just waiting for this to count down. Get to about a mile and a half. Again, the exact distance is down to experience with an aircraft, and I'm not quite sure what the turning rate is going to be, so we'll soon find out. Raisy's asking what processor graphics. It's an i7 3.6 gigahertz, I think. Graphics 3080 RTX. 16 gig RAM, fibre to the house. Okay, we're turning. We're over the top of the VOR. So while busy talking there and answering that question, we've gone and overshot. It's not a massive problem though. So all we'll do is just fly. We'll turn too much. Yeah, we're 2.5 miles away, look already. So should have anticipated that and started turning a couple of miles before the VOR. So we are doing 250 knots. So we're now flying away from the VOR. Yeah, this needle will come back in, don't worry about it. So we are over here somewhere. Yeah, just to the left of the track, flying out. So we need to fly until we are 20 miles away. So if you watch, this needle will fall back in as we get closer to the track again. Here it comes. So when this gets to 20 miles, we are going to switch over to going into the Compton VOR. So it will be in the region of this waypoint on the map that I've drawn in. So we're just coming up for 6.5 miles away from the VOR. Just checking, 11435 was the next VOR beacon, and it was. It's all good. So we're pretty much nailing it. We're on the radial. We've just gone over to one side of it. So we're waiting for the distance measuring equipment to show 20 miles. We could tune the other one in already, so on VOR2, so 11435. So let's do it. 11435. And we want the course into it to be 347 degrees. So you can see, look, there it is, and we're coming up to it as we speak, so we're not going to worry too much though. We're off to the right of it, and we're 30 miles from it at the moment, but we need to be 20 miles from this one before we change direction. So we're 12 miles away at the moment, 12 and a half. So if we look on here and measure this, whoops, measure distance from the VOR, we're about there at the moment. Yeah, so on this map we are somewhere in this region, heading out this way. When we get to 20 miles we'll switch over to flying straight for the Compton VOR on a course of 347. Just reading the live stream comments about computers and stuff. I wouldn't bother with a laptop for playing games on. I would go and buy. I would even buy components. I would go and buy a ready-built computer just for the job. If you go and look somewhere like Novatech, they have pretty reasonable prices for, you know, black box kind of sealed units that are just matched sets of components for a given price range. I wouldn't do anything more than that. Okay, we're just coming up to 20 miles, so we're going to switch over the VORs now and turn to 347. And oh, sorry, I've done the wrong thing, haven't I? That was the course. Yeah, the course needs to be 347, and change the track as well. So we're in heading mode. I keep forgetting that. So we'll overshoot slightly just to pull ourselves back onto the track. So we now got 20 miles to run, or thereabouts, into Goodwood. So we have flown 20 miles this way, and we've changed it to 347 degrees, and now we're flying into the Compton VOR on the 347 degree radial. So we're about halfway through the flight. We're going to be heading back towards Southampton. Not Southampton, Southend, I should say. So, and now we are flying this leg in towards Compton. So in preparation for the next leg, we can go and put in the Bovingdon VOR 11375 into the standby frequency. So 113.75. That agrees. Perfect. We could even go and, like we did last time, pre-program that into Nav2 to see it coming. 11375. And it's already lit up. It's seen it. It's 36 miles away from us as we stand at the moment. And the radial we'll be flying to get to it is 60 degrees. So we'll spin this round to 60 degrees. So you can see, if we go and sit over here to see it, the direction off our nose will need to turn about 40 degrees. Obviously we're off to the right of that track at the moment, which makes sense. We're kind of here, we're massively off to the right of it. Okay. So let's just go and straighten this up. We've got 12 miles to run. So the whole time we've been flying, London is over there, beneath that big pile of cloud. So Ben Anderson is saying, could I do an evaluation of the Concorde? The short answer is I'm not going to buy Concorde. There's two reasons. One of them is the people who developed it I've heard lots and lots of bad stories about their relations with the community. Also, I know several people that have got the Concorde and they haven't been very favourable in their comments about it. So by all means, go and buy it. You know, don't let me influence you. It's just that, yeah, I've heard horrible things, which may be substantiated, may be completely unsubstantiated, about the experience of people that have asked for support from them, for example. A very long time ago I did a video about comparing, just, you know, it was apples and oranges, but I compared the DCS Tomcat with the DC Designs Tomcat, and DC Designs basically came out swinging, making all sorts of claims that they'd had flight test engineers use it and confirm that it was perfect and it was on the numbers and dead on and flew exactly like the real thing, which we all know the fast jets in Flight Sim are nothing like the real thing. So anyway, I'm not going to get too far into that. So we're about to make the turn towards Bovingdon, so we can see the needles actually coming in over here. So we're going to make that turn to 60 degrees right now. And we'll also go and switch the frequencies and turn the course here to 60 degrees. So you can see we are absolutely on the line, but we're going to overshoot it because we are still turning, so we will need to turn a little bit beyond the direction we're going to come back onto that line, and we have 27 miles to run until we get to Bovingdon. So we've just crossed over the VOR at Compton, and we're now following the 60-degree track into Bovingdon on 113.75 is the frequency for Bovingdon. So in the same way we've done before now, we can get the next VOR ready. Although we've got quite a long way to run, so should we put 11435 in as the nav2 frequency just for a bit? So if we put 11435, this should light back up. There it goes, and you can see the distance measuring equipment. You can see it here as well. It's getting further and further away. So this is where we're going to. This is where we're going from. In between these two beacons. So we've got nav 2 tuned into Compton, and nav 1 tuned into Bovingdon. So we can see the two sets of numbers. It's very cool, isn't it? Yes, I saw the light aircraft fly past my nose as well. It's obviously somebody wanting to have their 2 seconds of fame on YouTube. Not that they'll be famous on my channel, because it doesn't have that many viewers. Okay, 18 miles to run to Bovingdon. And we can go and get the next frequency pre-tuned, which is 115.6 for the Lambourne VOR. So we'll go and tune that in here to 115.6. And we could do the same trick we did previously to keep ourselves busy. It's going to be 99 degrees, so we'll use the Nav Radio 2 as our example for that. We've flown over the beam again here. So 115.6, let's go and tune it in on nav 2. 115.6, and it's come alive. And the course we're wanting to go into it is 99 degrees. So we will change the nav 2 course to 99. So you can see this instrument moving. So we're off to the right of that track at the moment. Obviously we are, because we're over here somewhere. We're massively off to the right of that track. But that will come in closer as we get close to the Bovingdon VOR. So at the moment, the very next one is 35 miles away. Bovingdon is only 11 miles in front of us now. So in a few moments we will switch over to 11560. I'll wait till we're about 5 miles out, switch over, and then you'll see the needle fall in. Because if we turn the course to 99 degrees as well, we could do it now. Because we're on heading mode, it makes no difference to us. Because we're just using it as an indication. So that's the direction of travel that we're going to be moving to. And if we change the frequency to 115.6, you can see it's just coming in now. So we could try and anticipate the turn and go very neatly straight onto it. So 30 miles to go until we get to the Lambourne. So we've just made the turn over Bovingdon. We're on our way down to Lambourne, 115.6. And we're just coming in from this side of the line. Yeah, so you can see how we're getting closer and closer to the line. Just using heading mode. So we need to be mindful, we're getting close. As soon as we get away from Stapleford, or Lambourne I should say, we'll start descending. Just gently. Clouds are looking good, aren't they? Okay. It's a bit of a waiting game at the moment. So when we leave Stapleford, we're going to be flying a number of vectors basically. So we'll fly. This will be an interesting one because we'll have to play games with putting a radial in to anticipate the turn into Clacton, and then flying along blindly on a heading until we get that radial. So that'll be a bit more fun. So we've got 20 miles to run until we get to the Lambourne VOR. There's a mistake on the plan here, isn't there? Let's add that and remove Stapleford. Delete. There we go. So we should have been on 100 degrees, so we can correct that easily enough. So at the moment we are 16 miles away, so if we were to measure backwards along here we can figure out exactly where we are at the moment. We are there. Yeah, we're flying along the 100-degree track to Lambourne, and we were 16 miles away at the point we measured it. So it's going to become a bit more abstract to think about once we leave Lambourne and start navigating out towards Southend again. It's some interesting weather today. It's kind of playing into our hands for doing instrument navigation, really. So obviously we don't need to see anything to use the instruments, and we're doubling that up by not showing our aircraft position on the little nav map, just purely using it as a map. So 11 miles to go. We're off to the left slightly of the track, so I'm just going to correct for that, because we want to be fairly accurate when we cross over the VOR. So we want to leave the Lambourne VOR on a 69-degree radial. Okay, so we'll try and approach it fairly accurately, but we're going to change the course to 69 degrees, and then we need to fly along basically for 10 miles until we're 10 miles away from it. So we leave the frequency on the Lambourne VOR frequency, so we're going to change the course to 69 degrees. So I'm going to start doing it now so we can anticipate it. Okay, so when this needle sweeps in, we're going to turn to 69 degrees. Because this is basically preempting the from track, even though we're still going to the VOR. Right, I'm going to start turning. Just so we don't have too much of a turn to make. Here we go. Yeah, I knew it would come flying in. And we've flown over it. That's fine. So we've now gone out the other side of the VOR. And we've shot over the turn. So we're just turning back across it. Here comes the needle back. The closer you are to the VOR station, the more rapidly the needle's going to move. The further away you get, the more it calms down. So it was never going to be a panic. Okay, so now we're going to fly 10 miles on this track, basically 69 degrees, and at that point we're going to go to heading mode and fly 53 degrees for 26 miles. Or if we think about it in terms of the VOR station, I'll talk about it in a minute once we get there. So we're just coming up to 6.8 miles. We're going to turn to 53 degrees when we get to 10 miles out. Again, the only reason for doing this bizarre pattern is for the sectors. We are weaving our way in between Stansted and London Southend's airspace. So we're just coming up to 10 miles, so we're now going to change our course to 53 degrees, okay? Or heading, sorry, to 53 degrees. So 50, I'm just looking at this very bit more. 53 degrees. Okay, so the airplane is now flying 53 degrees. So we need to keep going until we are 35 miles away from the Lambourne VOR. So we can leave that on. Yeah. But we could also put Clacton on. So maybe we change VOR2 to be 115.6, which it already was. So we can use the distance measuring equipment from VOR2, which has got the same numbers on it. Yeah, you can see them over there. So when that says 35 miles, we'll be over here somewhere. So then we can tune the VOR1 into the Clacton, which is 11455. So we don't need to worry so much. So 114. Oops, we can do it on the active, it really doesn't matter. 11455, and we've already picked up Clacton, which is fantastic. The course into that will be 133 degrees, so we'll change the course. We're not there yet, but we don't really care. But we know when the DME from nav2 gets to 35 miles, this will suddenly sweep underneath the aircraft, so we can anticipate that and start making our turn. But we need to start descending as well. Probably not just yet, but we can start making an effort to descend at least. So in this aircraft you can just set the target altitude, which will be, say if we're coming down for 10,000 feet to begin with, set our target. You just nudge forwards and you'll see the vertical speed coming down. So say we say 1,000 feet a minute or thereabouts, and then we hit vertical speed on the autopilot and it will maintain that descent rate. So again, we're not in a hurry. So when this gets to 35 miles, we're at 23 miles away at the moment. Yeah, we do need to come down a bit more steeply. Let's come off the throttles. Let's start looking for approach kind of altitudes. So we're going to come down to 3,000 feet, lock that, and we'll put that on vertical speed to keep coming down at 2,000 feet a minute. We're 27 miles out. We're 13 miles from, so when this gets near to kind of 32, 33, we're going too fast by the way, so I'm going to pull the throttles back. We don't want to be going faster than 250 knots below 10,000 feet, so I'm just fixing that in the nick of time. So interesting actually to look at the spoilers on the jet. It opens the tail to slow the airplane down. It's very, very effective. So we're 5 miles out from our turn. Yeah, we're 30 miles away from here now, so we're probably over here somewhere. We're going to be turning to 133 degrees, which is the direction here. We're now 32 miles away. So very soon this will kick in. We're only 10 miles away, so that leg is 9.6. So we're getting really close to the turning point. So I'm going to actually start turning. And the needle is coming in. Okay, so we're slightly off to the left. We're 9 miles out from the Clacton VOR. We're descending. It's all looking good. Oh, I was hoping we'd get like thick cloud on approach, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So Chattanooga's saying, yeah, you are busy. If you're flying instruments, you're not really looking outside. It's instrument navigation, not visual. So, yeah, it's a bit of an unfortunate one, really. So we're 5 miles away from the turn. We are going to leave Clacton on 216 degree heading. Yeah, so we can actually get that put in already. 216 degrees. Four miles to run until we get to the VOR, so a couple of miles to go we will start the aeroplane turning, because it takes it time to turn, obviously. We're going too fast again, so we're going to, before we start going faster than 250 knots, just throwing the spoilers out for a moment. So we are 2.5 miles to run. Let's start turning. We've just hit our target altitude, but we're coming down to it anyway. So we've just passed the VOR station. So we're now flying an intercept track onto the direction we wanted to leave on, which was 215 degrees, which is tuned in here. So we're now going to switch over to the ILS 11135, but we don't need to worry. We can fly 10 miles away on this 215 track. We've only flown 1 mile so far. Here comes the track. So we'll just turn in towards it. We're at 3,000 feet. So the altitude is captured and the autopilot's holding us there. We've overflown slightly on the track, but that's fine. So I'm just stabilising the speed before we get any slower. So let's get the gear down and put the landing lights out. And first stage of flaps. We were going to go, and we've got ages. We've got another 6 miles before we need to even think about it. We're nowhere near this turn yet, but we'll go and get it tuned in. 11135. We can just maintain this heading. So 111.35 for the ILS. And there it goes. We picked up glide slope and localizer immediately. The direction of the runway is 233 degrees, or sorry, not the runway, the glide slope. So we turn this to 233. So we can now see our 17 miles to run. So we've got the gear down a bit early, but it doesn't matter. Just going to speed us up a little bit. We're going a bit slow. At least we get to enjoy what this aeroplane looks like. So normally you wouldn't get the gear down until you're on finals really, but it doesn't matter. Gives us time to talk, doesn't it? Or for me to go and check the live stream chat. Yeah, so we haven't really touched on it too much during this flight. We've been in sync mode most of the way, but someone's mentioned here you can put the thrust modulation system on descent mode, and you'll see straight away it doesn't like that. because we're not descending, we're on final approach. So you can't, in a way, because once you've got configured for landing, you have to raise thrust to hold speed. Because you're more draggy. Okay, so we can... Should we get ourselves onto the centre line ahead of time? So let's go and turn across the centre line to bring in the needle. The glide slope should appear before long. And we could, if we really wanted to, use VOR lock and glide slope lock. I guess it might be nice to see it happen. So we've got 13 miles to run to the airport. Waiting for the needle to come in. 13 miles, come on. Should turn it a little bit more steeply maybe. I just want to expedite getting this onto the centre line so we don't have to think about it. Yeah, needle's moving. A bit slow still. You do have to be careful with this aircraft, because you can imagine with these flaps it becomes incredibly draggy, and with the undercarriage. So we're 11 miles out, we're just coming up onto the centre line of the localizer. Glide slope hasn't started coming down yet. You wouldn't expect it to from this height until we're maybe 9 miles out. So let's go through VOR lock and see if it will capture. It looks like it has. So it's going to turn in and fly it. So let's try it. So this needle is coming in now, the glide slope. So let's go for glide slope lock as well. And see if it will fly the approach, and then we could watch from outside, which would be quite cool. Typically I like flying things down myself, but I don't mind now and again watching things work automatically, but I will take over. I don't understand people who use auto land all the time. It throws me around the twist. Typically in the real world, pilots fly the descent themselves. They only use the automated systems if they absolutely have to. Yes, look, it's captured the glide slope. There you go, it's just dipped the nose. So obviously we need to control throttle. There is no automatic throttle or speed control. So we're going to disable the autopilot. And fly it in. Just trimming gently downwards, coming off those throttles. Next stage of flaps. Should see the runway ahead of us fairly soon. 6 miles to run. We're a little bit below the glide slope, so nose up gently. If I zoom in slightly, you can see the needles down there on the HSI a bit better. So we're a bit above the glide slope, so just let the nose fall. And you can see the runway directly in front of us coming out of the mist. And there it is. So we're now keeping an eye on the speed, looking at aircraft configuration on the way, so we're winding the flaps out as we go. We're above the glide slope, So just going to correct for that gently. The wind is starting to push us a little bit. There's a bit of turbulence, but not too much. So 3.7 miles to run. Still high. So pretty much on the glide slope, mate. Full flaps, 2.5 miles to run. Wind is shifting around a little bit underneath us. It's a bit high.
$50, $40, $30, $20, $10.
Slightly off the centre line, not the best landing ever, but it'll do. So, air brakes, or should I say spoilers. The wings open enormously on this thing. See? You can see the wind hitting the side of the aeroplane, trying to tip it over. It was quite a strong crosswind in the end. So okay, we can raise the flaps, drop the spoilers. The wings essentially become enormous crow brakes in this thing. I think we have to spin around here and backtrack. I'm not sure that there's a way around the airfield. Yeah, we have to spin around. So yes, like I said at the start, this is the Pilot Plus scenery for Southend. A friend of mine who lives in Southend had a good look at this with me last night and said it's absolutely stunning. He said it's so much like the real place, it's unbelievable almost. So we just taxi back. Yeah, we had quite a lot of gusting on the way in. It was throwing me around a little bit, which is probably half my excuse for the poor landing, but half of that excuse is just not having flown this for a while, and you become rusty. So there's a couple of nice treats to see on the way back in. We're going to taxi past the Vulcan, which is parked here at Southend. So if we just come off the runway at this exit. Let's do this from outside so you get to see. Can you see it over there in the corner of the hangar? There is a Vulcan airframe parked up. It's been there for years. They used to run it up and down the runway with the engines running. So if you've not seen one before, if you don't, if you're fairly young and maybe don't know history so well, the Vulcans were part of the nuclear bomber fleet in the UK in the 1960s. I don't think there's any of them left flying now. I think the last operation they ever did was bombing Port Stanley in the Falkland Islands, when they were brought out of retirement to do that. Okay, so we'll fly along or taxi back along the flight line here at Southampton. Sorry, Southend. I keep saying that, don't I? We'll park in one of these bays here. Okay, parking brakes on. We've already got the APU running, haven't we? So you never switch it off in this aeroplane, which means we can just do this to shut the aeroplane down, or to shut the engines down anyway. And then sit here on the APU. Obviously then you can go through overhead and do the reverse of everything we did earlier, which obviously I'm not going to make you sit through me switching things off. It's very boring to watch. Something we might do though is have a play with some of the things in the tablet you can set up for the aeroplane. So if we put the tablet back on and we go back to the main menu for it and go to the aircraft menu, we can put the forward passenger stairs in place. So we can see the door has now opened. If we hit the stairs button, very cool, isn't it? We can do the same with aft passengers, aft service, forward cargo, forward service. Put the ground power in place maybe. Put the chocks in place. So everything slowly gets configured. It's a really nicely done aeroplane, the BAE 146, I have to say. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that flight, and I'll see you all again soon. So that was a trip around London doing some radio navigation to avoid the airfield sectors around the capital. So it's good fun. Okay, I'll see you again soon.